Hi everyone, I'm Sebastian, and today I would like to talk a little bit about customary measurements and the metric measurement system. Um, so why do we measure? Well, it depends on what you do in life, but everybody cooks or bakes, and we use measurements like even if you buy stuff, groceries, it's in ounces or pounds, sometimes grams, and then recipes go in tablespoons, cups for measuring, and you got also fluid cups. Fluid can also be in quarts, fluid ounces. What else do we have? Oh yeah, measuring in inches, feet, yard, miles. One little thing I found was, I think it's a little bit outdated, but if you look at liquid measurements within the customary measurements, you have gallons, quarts, pints, gill, fluid ounce, fluid gram, and minim. And if you wonder what a gallon is, well, a gallon is 4 quarts. A quart is 2 pints. A pint is 4 gills. A gill is 4 fluid ounces. A fluid ounce is 8 fluid grams. Well, that makes it exactly clear what to do. Well, kind of the same thing happened in the 17th century in Europe, where they used their own measuring system. So there's a little bit of an overview. Talking about feet, French ell, yard, span, 6 feet, and that was just basically on human proportion. So, for instance, if you would go to the market to buy fabric to make garments, you would just use an ell. So you would measure from the tip of your hands to your elbow, and that would be 1 ell, and that would come at a price. But it then would depend on your salesperson, if they were short or tall, if you would get a good deal or a bad deal. And the same thing happened basically for, selling beer in pints. Because if you went to one town, then a pint would be this size, and in another town it might be smaller or bigger. So they needed to standardize. So I got a little bit of the old-fashioned standardization from Britain. This is a British yard to feet. I think it's the first inch and a quarter inch. This is a picture I found from a church in Germany that has also a foot. The ell, I think this is like a 6 feet or like a personal size, which also was an indicator for a lot of construction building techniques. But it was a bit of a hodgepodge of a lot of measuring, a lot of different terms and units. So during the French Civil War, they decided on a standard measurement for length, and that was the meter. So this is the standard meter. And they implemented a decimal system onto it. So the 1 meter would be divided into 10 decimeters, 100 centimeters, 1,000 millimeters, and so forth. I think the original meter is still locked up in a vault somewhere under temperature control, although it's not correctly, since they used I think a quarter of the surround of the Earth, which is not round, and they didn't know that, and it's also lumpy and bumpy, so it's inaccurate measurements. So nowadays we implement the meter by the speed of light in a vacuum, which is 1 second divided by 299,792,458 seconds per meter in a vacuum. So decimal system in length. Well, let me show you a little bit of an overview. If you look at the meter, so the standardized meter they introduced, it's to divide it in, if you divide it by 10, you have 10 decimeters. Oops, I'm going down. That's times 10. We can go that way too. So if you do it times 10, it's 1 decameter. times 100, that's a hectometer, and times 1,000, that's a kilometer. If we divide by 10, then it's a decimeter, divided by 100 is a centimeter, and divided by 1,000 is a millimeter. Well, this is also to be implemented on things like mass and volume. So in the same place, they have the basic liter and the basic kilogram safely locked away. And then if you look at that volume, it's the same trick. So if you look at liter divided by 10, it's a deciliter, divided by 100, it's a centiliter, divided by 1,000, it's a milliliter, and so forth. And then also if you look at mass, it's the same thing. You use grams, so like 1 gram divided by 10 is a decigram, divided by 100 is a centigram, and by 1,000 is a milligram, and on the other way up to a kilogram to measure in volume, mass. So good to use for cooking, baking, also interesting for us, for the embalmers amongst us. This is our basic formula we use to make embalming solution. As you can see already, like you use about 4 different unit indicators. So for embalming fluid index, it's a number. Embalming fluid volume, it's fluid ounces. Solution strength, percentage, and then the embalming solution volume is in gallons. So then you have to like transfer this back to units you can actually use within an equation, which then the number is a little bit easier for the fluid index because it's a percentage as well. And then percentage, of course, works also with tenth, right? If 1% is 100th of 1, it's easier to calculate that with a metric system than saying like, what is 1% out of a foot, right? All right. I hope this makes somewhat sense for measurements, customary measurements, and metric measurement system. Love to know what you think. And if I was unclear, I would like to know that too, so I can improve. So hope to hear from you guys soon, and good luck with everything. Bye.